Woohoo!
Let's go back to identity in general. If everyone feels like their own personal identity is worthy of respect, why do so many people not respect identities different than them?
Because people kind of suck and are massive, massive hypocrites all the time. People are super aware of how their own personal identities want to be respected, and they're super aware of how it feels terrible to be disrespected. But somehow that doesn't necessarily transfer over from people should respect me to I should respect other people. And that's generally because you care more about yourself than you care about other people. And there can also be this weird sort of mind thing where it's wait, actually that makes other people feel bad as well. Because depending on the person, it can be difficult to feel empathy towards that and to really put yourself in their shoes and put your own experiences onto them and be okay, wait, they can actually feel bad about this stuff. But generally, I think that a lot of people are aware, once they become adults, that, yeah, it feels pretty hurtful to be disrespected in that way. And so their respect towards other people is normally just this probably feels bad, but also I don't really care that much. Or even, yeah, this probably feels bad, but I really want to hurt them, actually, because that's just how I feel. So it's not necessarily that people are completely unaware of how their actions might be hurtful towards other people, because most of the time they are completely aware. It's more that they either don't care at all how their actions hurt other people, or they're actively trying to make their actions hurt more people.
People in contemporary American culture, at least, kind of get off on hurting people who have different identities.
Yeah.
It feels like that's real, right? Another question is whether the beliefs of some particular identities inherently almost demand disrespect or judgment on other identities. And let me just throw out a few.
Yeah.
And then you can tell me your thoughts on those. Let's start again with religious identities. Do those have inherent beliefs that call for judgment of other identities?
I think that we should basically respect all identities. But I also think that there's sort of the exception that proves the rule. When it comes to an identity that is based on hurting other people, or like the need to hurt other people, or the want to hurt other people, or that is just a fundamental part of that identity, then that identity should not be respected. And by not respecting that identity, you are respecting all the other identities. Because you can't respect every identity, right? Because some fundamentally contradict each other. Maybe some sects of Christianity and homosexuality. The identities that you should choose to respect are the ones that do not focus on hurting other people. And so my response to that is, yeah, some religions, or some parts of some religions, do sort of demand the disrespect to other identities. And that's a pretty fundamental part of them.
So let's continue to talk about religious identities. In my younger years, or I guess junior high and high school years, I was an evangelical Christian. And part of evangelicalism is that people who do not believe in Jesus Christ, people who do not enter into a relationship with Jesus Christ, are destined for eternal damnation. As a young person, my parents weren't Christian. And that caused a lot of pain for me because I really believed it.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to change your beliefs.
Well, but for me then, that was it. For me to judge them or try to change their beliefs was an act of love.
Yeah.
On my part, right? I didn't want them to go to hell.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard when you get down into specific things like that. It's almost impossible to sort of cover every circumstance in the world with just one broad statement. And so it's really hard for me to say, what should be done in that situation, or, what even can be done. Because in your perception, fully believe this thing, it's impossible not to believe this thing, because you can't just, stop believing something all of a sudden. And so you believe that this will cause them to get, tortured in hell. And so you're yeah, that's an act of love for you. But for them, it's an act of disrespect towards their beliefs. And so it sort of feels different on on both sides. It feels it can turn around, but no matter the empathy you have, even if you do understand their side, you still have to hold up your own side. Because, like, I'm sure you understood that they were, like, uncomfortable with, like, your constant, trying to get them to be Christian, but you couldn't stop because you believe that, like, the alternative would be much, much worse. So, it's difficult because those two things sort of are inherently contradictory and inherently, like they have to repel against each other.
So you made a statement, a rather emphatic statement earlier, that on some level, religious people just kind of have to get over themselves or discard those parts of their religion that are inherently prejudicial.
Yeah.
We had, in an earlier video series, talked about how the educational system in the United States is, in fact, legally discriminatory against religious beliefs on some level, insofar as they are not allowed to be taught in our public schools. In fact, just the opposite, that a inherently godless belief system of science on some level, right, or a mechanistic belief system is required to be taught to every single child, exclusively. So on some level, like, to me, that's, you know, how do you reconcile that? Why don't atheists and secularists have to get over themselves and stop discriminating in the educational system in such an obvious and overt way?
I think we said before that the reason why science is taught is because it, like, really tries to analyze the world and come to conclusions based on facts that we can see and know of. And so that's why it is prioritized above any religion. I think that the only way it could be hateful is for a teacher to try to stop a religious student from being a part of the religion. I think that would be hateful.
The reason why you think it's okay to teach science exclusively is because it's true. Like, that's the only justification.
Yes, I believe that science is true. I think that science, and I'm aware I could be totally biased here, but I think that science is objectively the most true, even if other things could be true, because it is the only belief system that is backed up by fact.
Science isn't a set of beliefs.
Yes.
It's a methodology for determining truth. It requires observable information, it requires measurable information, and it requires peer review and challenges to any of those measurements or theories based on those measurements, until literally no one who has seen those measurements and heard the story disagrees.
Exactly.
Still, though, it's interesting that scientific beliefs and scientific identity is as discriminatory towards other beliefs as almost any other belief system is. And that's almost inherent to any belief system that makes claims about the universe. Because all of them seem to purport that there's only one universe.
That's true.
The reason I bring up science as being equally as exclusive as religion is I think that kind of gets at the core of why inherent in believing something there is an inherent disrespect towards alternative beliefs. Is because any claim about the truth is by definition excluding other statements and beliefs that are contradictory to it.
Yeah.
So it helps explain why we have these fights.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're natural. It makes sense.
Yeah.
They're not crazy.
Although the exclusionary factor in religion, in any system of beliefs at all, can lend itself to a certain amount of disrespect to that belief just by saying it's not true is sort of disrespecting that belief. There's also the added level of disrespect that is optional and that people choose or don't choose to do. And that's sort of the level of disrespect that's controllable and that people should try to do away with as much as possible.
We hope that you enjoyed that video, and if you did, please consider checking out the next one in the series.
Or some of our other series on philosophy and life.
We upload videos every Friday, so don't forget to like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. See you next week.